What's up, y'all? I just wanted to make this YouTube video really quick here because I'm actually in the market to buy my first car that I'm not paying cash for. So I'll be taking out a loan on this one, be financing this car, and I've looked at a few cars so far, and I really wanted to sit down and kind of just go over all the numbers myself because the salesmen and their sales tactics and everything can be a little bit crazy. And I'll be posting this to a couple Reddit pages, but I just figured I'd put this tool out there for everybody. I'm going to include a link to this Excel file in the description, but I just wanted to go over this tool that I put together to allow you to compare the price of a car with the loan terms, the percent APR, and a few other things that I kind of add in there to, at least for me, it helps me to rationalize the decision of what car I'm going to be buying. I also put in there a little calculator that allows you to put your price, your down payment, and the percent and the term, and it'll show you kind of your monthly payments, your total loan amount, how much interest you're going to be paying on top of the price of the car. So I just figured it'd be a nice little feature to add in there. But really the whole thing here, I've got this spreadsheet pulled up, as y'all can see, and I've got a bunch of different cars in here. These are Camrys that I'm looking at, and I started with the three that I'm most interested in because this was for my own comparison, and I was like, you know what, let me throw a few other cars in there to kind of make an example of this formula and this system that I'm using to compare cars. It's not perfect, but it kind of gives you a good idea. So let's start with this 2018 Camry right here. This is one that I pulled up today. It has 53,000 miles. It is priced at $19,601. Now, that is 6.99% APR. That's what I used for the interest rate on all of these, just because that's what I qualified for at Greensboro Nissan. And I figured most dealerships will probably be able to match that. There'll be some variance, but it'll be pretty close. So with a price of $19,000 and some change there, that put me, let me take this out, in my calculator here, that put me at a total loan amount of $24,054.01. That's $4,400 and some change of interest that you'll be paying on that loan, with a monthly payment of $334.08 over a 72-month loan. That's a 6-year term. So that's just kind of the basics, but what I wanted to break it down into outside of interest paid, loan amount, I wanted to kind of get an idea as far as what would be a best investment, because cars are depreciating assets naturally. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to see what was going to yield me the best kind of miles per dollar per mile ratio, assuming that I'm going to drive these cars to 200,000 miles. And I added some in there basically that shows me how many years I will get out of my car, assuming I drive 20,000 miles a year on average, which is pretty close to what I actually drive a year. And then I also put in there how many dollars per year that I'm going to be paying essentially by the time I hit 200,000 miles. So you'll see that, when we go over a few of these cars, that can drastically change depending on the mileage that the car has. But anyways, let's start with the first one again. Like I said, 2018 Camry, 53,000 miles right here, priced at $19,600. Basically a 7% interest rate. That brings the total loan up to $24,000 and some change. Monthly payment was looking at $334.08, about $4,400 in interest. So what we did here is basically just takes the total loan into consideration, so the $24,000 and some change there. And that is going to be divided by the 200,000 mile mark that I'm benchmarking these cars with, subtracting the current mileage of the vehicle. So that's going to leave us with the remaining miles that I have left on that car before I hit 200,000 miles. And basically that's going to give me a ratio, kind of just how much I'm paying per mile of driving before I get to 200,000 miles. It's kind of flawed when you look at super used cars, as you'll see right here. I've got a 2013 Camry. This is not something that would usually qualify for a loan. I know at least not for a personal loan, but I'm sure that a dealership will finance it. The rate is probably way off. You'll probably pay a higher rate on something this used. But it's a 2013 Camry, 166,000 miles, priced at $9,800 with the total loan, assuming you get 7%, which you probably want on this car. Total loan would come out to $12,119 with a monthly payment of $168. That sounds great because it's super cheap. But let's look at it when we look at our ratio here. At 200,000 miles, which we would only have, about 34,000 miles left, you'll be paying 36 cents a mile for each one of those miles before you get to 200,000 miles. And it obviously, that number is smaller and smaller the more you drive it. But that's just for those remaining miles before you hit 200K versus, say, the 2018 Camry with 53,000 miles for $19,000. You're only paying 16 and some change cents a mile. So it's 20 cents more per mile to be driving that 2013 Camry. At least that's what it seemed in my calculations. That'll put you at 1.6 years, 1.7 years roughly, before you hit that 200,000 miles, assuming you drive 20,000 miles a year. And of course, that made the cost per year of owning that car massive, because since you're not even owning the car for a whole 2 years, that's essentially like you're spanning that, that full $17,000 over the year and some change. So I know it's a little flawed, but it just kind of puts things into a little bit of a perspective as to what would kind of be a good deal. So it's a little hard to compare something with 6,000 miles for $27,000 to something that's 166,000 miles for $9,800. But it does kind of give you like a benchmark to realize like what the potential length of ownership of the car. So to me, when I'm looking at like this 2013, potential ownership would be 1.6 years before it hits 200K. Obviously, most people that are buying that car are probably going to drive it till the wheels fall off. I'm going to buy this, say this 24, I'm still going to drive it till the wheels fall off. So I'll probably get at least my nine years that I'm assuming I'm getting here out of this car. But obviously, this guy right here, this 13, where you're only getting 1.6, 1.7 years before you hit 200K, you're going to drive it for longer than that. But I figured 200,000 miles is a pretty good benchmark. Most cars will make it to 200K. Some will make it over. Just depends on the car's history, how well you treat it. But I just don't think that anything where you're going to be paying a loan on potentially past the lifespan of the vehicle is a good investment. At least not where you're having to pay interest and all that. So for this car, I just saw, $12,000 after financing, and fees, only getting, 1.7 years out of it. That's just, to me, that looks like a bad investment. The numbers are just looking really whack on that. It's just looking like not a great investment. But as you see, we'll scroll down just a little bit. I got a 14 Camry with 121,000 miles for $13,400. Same interest rate, total loan goes up to $16,500. Monthly payment goes up to $229. Shows us that our interest paid went up to $3,000 opposed to the $2,200 from the previous car. But our dollar per mile has gone down here, assuming we'll get to 200K miles. So This is just the dollar per mile that you're paying, assuming the car blows up at 200,000 miles. Most probably won't. So your dollar per mile is going to go down the longer and longer you drive it. But this is just kind of given it's like a health check on the vehicle, like a lifespan. So you get about 4 years, just under 4 years on this car before you hit 200K miles, assuming you're driving the 20,000 miles that I'm driving. And that'll put you at about $4,200 per year of ownership that you end up owning that car. Because about 4 years, 4 times 4, 16, that's about what we're paying for the total loan. That's just a rough, that's in my head math. But that's a direct breakdown of, what you'll be paying a year for that. So clearly you need to consider the budget that you have. You need to look within the budget that you have and use this tool to compare the cars that are within the budget that you have. When you kind of compare these brand new cars with some of these cars that have been well used, the numbers are all over the place. It's hard to compare. It's clear which one's the better deal, as far as better investment. And things will depreciate. So there's a lot that goes into it, but this is just kind of like a caveman's way of figuring things out, at least for me. But we'll do another comparison here. We got a 2020 Camry, 95,000 miles. Price was $18,400, pretty good, honestly. I think the miles could be a little bit lower for that price. I'm noticing that any of these ones that were coming from modern Toyota were probably a little overpriced as far as for the market. But enough said. That puts the total loan to $22,600 with $315 a month for the payments, and a total interest paid to be $41.99. Dollar per mile actually got a little bit more expensive. You see on the car before we were paying $211 a mile. This is $216, and these are pretty much in cents. So you're paying 22 versus 21 cents a mile. Not a crazy amount, 1 penny difference. Less than a penny, honestly, when you don't round. But you're going to get 5.2 years out of this car, and you'll only really be paying about $100 more per year of ownership before you hit 200K. And you're getting, a 6-year newer car. So to me, getting a 6-year newer car, you're getting at least a year and some change, about 1.3 years longer lifespan out of this car. To me, it would be worth that small extra bit to get a 6-year newer car. The 2020 is a lot nicer than 2014. So you don't want to just compare off the numbers too. Go off the car you like, go off the features and whatnot. But most of these are LE, like base model cars, so it's a pretty direct comparison. Now, I did have another one in here that was different from the other used one that we compared to, because this was a $7,500 2008 Camry. This was at another dealership from a side of Modern. It was at Cox Toyota. The total loan for this guy turned out to be $92,03, assuming you can get it, financed for the same 6.99%. Monthly payment was super cheap, $127.83. Interest paid turned out being $1,703.87, so you're not even paying $2,000 in interest. Mileage ratio here, we're at 15 cents a mile before we hit 200K, because we're getting about 60,000 miles. Do the math. It's all worked in here. This is all a calculator. You can go in here and you can plug in the make. I put all this stock number, vehicle, dealership. I put all that in there for convenience, just for my own notes and for the next person's notes. But all you really need to do is go in here, you type in the mileage, the price of the car, the percent that you're approved, and then for the total loan and the monthly payments, you can go down here and type all that information in, and it'll give you those numbers that you need to pull up here. So we'll do the 2008, for example. I have the very first one pulled up. But let's say we're doing the 2008. The price was $7,500. We're going to say no down payment, because that's how I calculated all the vehicles above. But you can, pay down whatever you'd like. Then put your interest rate in. 6.99% is what I qualified for. So whether or not that's true for this car, I don't know. But that's just the number I'm using to base everything off of. 72-month loan. So you're going to put the term in months. You'll put 72 months. That's 6 years. Then for your monthly payment, it's going to show you that. Let me actually delete this out so you can see that. none of this will show up until you put all three of these values in. 7,500, 699, and then a 72-month loan. It's going to boom. It's going to populate your monthly payment. It's going to show you the total amount of the loan, and it's going to show you how much in interest you're paying. Now, of course, say we put, it's a $7,500 car. Say we put, 10% down. That just makes it easy and round. We'll put $750 in there. Boom. Now you're going to see your monthly payment came down to $115.05 with a total loan of $82.83, and your interest paid at $1533.48. So this is good to kind of help you compare, how much in interest and your total loan amount will be depending on how much you put down. It might be worth it to put something down if you've got the cash. It's always going to be worth it. You'll never have to pay interest on that you're putting down. But it helps you make that decision. So anyways, this video was pretty long for kind of just explaining this spreadsheet, but I just wanted to put it up real quick because I feel like a lot of guys in the Reddit page that I'm in and just people all over the internet could use a little spreadsheet like this to kind of help them compare everything, because for me it just makes sense to put everything down into a spreadsheet, everything kind of on paper, so that I can see the numbers, I can visualize everything, because I can look at one number and look at a percentage and look at that, but it's really not as easy to figure out in your head as you'd think. So it makes a lot more sense to sit down and kind of think this through. The first three cars that I was looking at here, the $13,000 or 13,000 mile one here, this 2024 Camry, I think it's a great car. It's one I'm really loving, but I think that for the money, I think this guy right here, this 2018, spending $120 less a month, $200 some less a year. I'm looking at my financial situation. I'm looking at the future. I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to make more sense for me, just because that extra $120 might help with bills later. It's going to be more money I could put in the savings. In 7.5 years, I might want a new car anyways. I might be making more money. I just think that this is probably going to be a better investment. On paper, it's better, and I think that's kind of that's why I put this tool together, was to basically kind of not convince myself, but to help me understand what seems to be the better deal, what's going to be a better investment for myself. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, it's a depreciating asset, so there's really never a great investment financially, like as far as where your money goes. But everybody has to have a car to get to work, so you got to kind of look at these things and compare them. So again, video's pretty long, but I just want to put this tool out there. Like I said, there's going to be a link in the description with the tool, link to this Excel file that anybody can use. And if you have any comments or questions, put them below. I'm not a finance major. I'm nothing, I went to school for business, but this is not remotely my wheelhouse. So don't roast me too bad if some of my formulas are off, but I think this was just a good caveman way to kind of compare a couple different cars with different loans and different percentages and different mileage, price points. It could help you negotiate too. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the tool.